Somebody had to do it. I am the chosen one. Somebody had to do it.
When I and me forever.
Welcome. Thanks for coming back. We are in the second half of our double header. I promised you guys the other day a review of some based camp content. Shout out to the Collins couple. It's my favorite white couple on YouTube. I just love their content. And I just kind of like their energy, honestly. They have a nice interplay between the two of them, how they bounce things off of each other. And today we're going to talk about, well, loosely speaking, we're going to talk about a thing called Anemoia, a nostalgia for a time you've never known. Most of us listening here are, we were born a few decades short of the 50s. So we don't really know what it was like. We have to watch mob movies and old movies, period, just to get a feel of that world. And so for us right now, reading about the 50s, we may as well be reading about ancient Rome, may as well be reading about Rhodesia. But the question at hand is, were the 50s really better? Because when I first introduced the subject to you the other day, I was explaining how Trump, he kind of started this whole "Make America Great Again" slogan. And then if America needs to be great again, it begs the question, when was America great? And a lot of people kind of sort of just almost reflexively point to roughly maybe the 50s, the era just before the civil rights really took hold. And we're going to take a look at that. So thank you guys for coming through. Hit that like button on your way. And I appreciate you guys for sticking around for the second act. And we're going to keep this one high and tight and get up out of here. Let's go.
But yeah, I was like, well, of course, like the thing I can really dunk on is the experience of Black Americans in the 1950s. And I'm trying to find all the stats, and I look at their marriage rates and I'm like, oh, okay, well, in the 1950s, 64% of Black women were married, roughly comparable to white women.
Kids born out of wedlock were half the white rate today.
At only 5%. We're at the white percent born out of wedlock was 10%.
It's like,
yeah, but Black infants born out of wedlock soared to 77.3%. Like, I mean, it's obviously there were horrible things about like pre-civil rights, but okay, so like fertility is worse, out of wedlock births are worse, mental health is worse, even if wealth too. In median Black household income is 58% of white households, which is unchanged since 1953.
I heard her say all this and I was like, this can't actually be true, right? Like, this doesn't sound true to me. So I decided to start Googling it. And oh my God, it's so much worse than I thought. If you look at this graph by the Washington Post, which is looking at median household wealth adjusted for inflation, since the 1950s, white wealth has gone up about 3x. Black wealth is approximately the same as it was in the 1950s.
So also, like, I was looking at that, I was like, oh my God, I've been lied to about the 50s. Like, oh, so much more expensive, except, well, we spent like 15% of our income on clothes. So I don't know.
Would you like to know more?
Hello, Malcolm. I'm so excited to be speaking with you today because we are going to be talking about the 1950s. And obviously, we enjoyed tossing rotten vegetables at the 1950s. We point out how trad wives are both unsustainable and a progressive conspiracy. We point out how sexually debauched they were in the 1950s.
Hold on. I gotta make a few notes on these things for people who haven't seen these episodes. Specifically, what we mean is that the trad wife phenomenon, as it is practiced today, is more of a cargo cult than representative of how people actually lived in the 1950s.
And before. The real family format that has existed for thousands.
Calling a modern trad wife a cargo cult phenomenon kind of went right over my head. Like, never thought of that before.
Trad wife phenomenon.
How sexually debauched they were in the 1950s.
Hold on. I gotta make a few notes on these things for people who haven't seen these episodes. Specifically, what we mean is that the trad wife phenomenon, as it is practiced today, is more of a cargo cult than representative of how people actually lived in the 1950s.
Before. The real family format that has existed for thousands of years is what's called the corporate family, which is more an extended family group of both people and unrelated colleagues.
And the modern trad wife is more downstream of BDSM culture.
And you don't even know, Malcolm, but this is trending now.
The modern trad wife is more downstream of BDSM culture.
Online, because there are these trad wives who are now, I don't remember what they call them, but there's one woman who calls it the princess treatment, and then, or experience or something like that. And then there's this other one who literally wears a BDSM collar, but calls it like like she thinks that it's a conservative Christian thing, but she literally bought this collar, a day collar, I think she calls it.
A conservative Christian collar. Ooh, you young kids are so kinky. A conservative Christian collar. That's like, there's a video I found the other day. It was totally clickbait, but remember the Christian BBL?
Nigga, please. Serious.
To signal her subservience to her husband, not realizing that literally she purchased this collar from a BDSM site, and it's so amazing, and the internet's laughing like crazy. But anyway, yeah, it's such a thing, and it's showing up again because it's a thing.
It's so funny because a lot of these people were so hidden from that they don't realize that it's like, no, these words you're using did not come from the 1950s. They literally came from BDSM culture. Like, this is not the things that you're buying, these styles that you're adopting.
Not to kink shame or anything. It's just, it's not like the traditional correct way to do family.
Yeah, so I think that's always funny to get into, but continue.
Right. So as much as we like to dunk on the 1950s, there were absolutely major elements of it that rocked, including affordability, employment, quality of life, social stability. There were even some commonly highlighted shortcomings of the 1950s that are maybe not as short as I thought they were previously.
And hold on. I should also note, for people who haven't seen our episode on the 1950s being debauched, it also was in many ways, way more sexually debauched than modern times. Where we point out the prevalence within literature of the period and within studies run during the period of young male mutual masturbation and the prevalence of nudity, like group showers.
Young male mutual hanky-panky. Wow. Gay boomers, huh? Interesting.
And stuff like that people don't do anymore. And the prevalence
but it was no homo group showers. You know, it was like people were based enough to not insinuate too much or read too much into it.
Well, yeah, they did.
A no Diddy group shower? I don't know. Sound like some jail stuff to me. I sound like some straight up Rikers Island culture to me. Shout out to True Hyatt. What's going on with the $2 super chat? He says, is this just more upside down pineapple stuff? This particular segment apparently is a little upside down pineapple-ish, but the whole thing is not. No, we're not going to do that for the whole show, I promise.
I see it as gay.
It's an all-comprehensive kind of thing. You know, we have to touch on everything that happened in the 50s, and so there was always some gay stuff everywhere you look.
Like group showers and stuff like that people don't do anymore, and the prevalence.
But it was no homo group showers. You know, it was like people were based enough to not insinuate too much or read too much into it.
Well, yeah, you know, they didn't see it as gay to like jack off your friend in the 1950s. They were like, yeah,
you're just helping out a friend. Come on.
I love people were like,
thank you for being a friend. What in the hell? I can't believe this is a thing that people used to think.
Oh, that was like those studies were debunked. And I was like, bro, if you have actually read a lot of literature from people who grew up in the 1950s that describe like underground culture, what it was really like, you will very frequently find stories of mutual masturbation among males. I have not read a single like non-gay story where that happens in modern times. I don't have a single friend who has admitted to me, oh,
you got a friend in me. You got a friend in me. What the hell was going on back then? Oh Lord!
Oh, this thing.
I think even our totally straight doesn't go that far.
Yeah.
So
continue.
Anyway, I want to make the argument basically that yes, a lot of things about the 50s either totally misunderstood or actually sucked, but there are a lot of things that were great. But I have zero respect for anyone who pines after the 50s, and I will explain why. But basically, midwits crave the 1950s.
Well, because you believe it's all
live the 1950s.
The reason she doesn't care is she thinks that you can remake everything that was good in the 1950s within the modern day.
Exactly. That's my point.
And I'll push back. So make your argument.
Yeah. Well, so let's go over what's good about the 1950s, right? So housing and basic goods, the cost of living was dramatically lower. And so that is a clear winner. Housing was affordable, with the average home costing around $15,000 compared to over $200,000 today.
You know what a $15,000 house would get you today? It would literally be delivered to you in a box from Temu.
Plus, gasoline, food, and cars were also cheaper relative to income, making it easy for a single income to support a family and afford a home and car.
I thought food was dramatically more expensive.
I'll walk you through this. It. Okay. But actually, we recently did a video on AI in social class, and in that video, we show this 1957 video on social class in America that shows the lives of a lower class American and middle class American.
Well, Chuck Wu, that's the whole reason why we're doing this stream, right? Chuck Wu says, it's difficult for me to be nostalgic about an era in America that had institutionalized white supremacy. I'm not a fan of racial apartheid, to be honest. Fair enough. And I am not here to tell you that you're a bad guy because you have that feeling. All I want to do is point out that you and I are probably of a particular age where we have not experienced the 50s at all. All we get is literally mythology. What do we know is true anymore? And so I kind of want to walk with them as they take a look back at some of the objective truths about that era.
And then an upper class American. And there's this one scene where they show the run-down lower class house.
David's father is Michael Benton, an unskilled factory worker who has a meager education. Mr. Benton rents the upper floor of a two-family house in a rundown section of town.
In the video, and it's like, it looks so nice.
Oh, so yeah, if it was in LA, it looked like the houses would cost a few million in LA.
I know, it looked like a $2 million Bay Area house. So yeah, that like only the wealthiest could possibly live in these days. So I get, that has gotten, we have problems there. We have problems with housing. Plus, the median American family had 30% more purchasing power at the end of the decade than at the beginning. And the dollar's buying power was much greater. So college tuition was low enough that student debt was basically it wasn't a thing.
30% more buying power. Imagine that your paycheck got 30% bigger tomorrow morning. You went from $1,000 a week to $1,300 a week. 30% is a nice little bump. Now you have a budget for a girlfriend. That $300 a week, boom, dates, clothes, can maybe get your car fixed up.
So as much as even like the GI Bill may have helped a lot of guys, and this was something that enabled people who fought in World War II to basically go to college for free, for those who aren't familiar with it, it almost wasn't necessary because school was just affordable. Another element was that employment was cush. Like there was this really short-lived period where it just like getting a job seemed incredibly easy.
Hey, shout out to True Hype again with the 5 ball. He said, Amazon and BoxBL have decently made prefab homes that are actually nice for close to that price. You know, I saw Amazon has prefab homes now. I think I saw them for like in the $40,000 range. So I don't know if you talk about 15 grand like what they just said on here, but they do have some nice looking prefab mini homes though. I don't know if you're talking about a full size home, but I know Amazon is doing mini homes and around the like lower 40s maybe, but like a nice one though. But shout out to True Hype. Thank you for the 5 ball. Hit that like button, guys. We are getting deep into the 1950s. Don't get all racially upset. I know it's white supremacy though. Everybody's struggling. Black women had it hard. It was the 50s.
Hoes mad, hoes mad, hoes mad, hoes mad, hoes mad, hoes mad.
This is about targeting women of color in the United States of America. Don't tell me because I didn't get a single apology.
Time has expired.
My life was threatened. Thank you.
Hoes mad, hoes mad, hoes mad, hoes mad, hoes mad, hoes mad, hoes mad.
And it was, at the time, unemployment was super low, about 4.5%, and low in a way that was like legitimately low. Because I think now people are juicing the numbers in all sorts of ways, pretending that people who are, one, not counting unemployed people who've given up and all these other factors.
Chuck Wu, I wanna pose a proposition to you, Chuck Wu. Chuck, I want to make a deal with the devil with you, if you don't mind. Well, I'm going to offer you a deal with the devil. You have complete masculine patriarchal privilege to find a wife and raise a family according to your vision in exchange for unlimited hard R's. Don't answer now, Chuck. Don't answer now. I want you to think on it for a little bit. Just hear me out. You have full, complete patriarchal authority to find and procure a wife of your choosing, and then to now lead that family as you see fit, as the Lord and Master of your estate. In exchange for all white people have unlimited hard R privilege. Think it over, bro. Think it over.
So yeah, actually low unemployment. And there were tons of jobs in manufacturing and industry. You didn't need a high school diploma to have a job. The GI Bill that I mentioned earlier helped millions of veterans access higher education and then buy homes. So there was both economic growth and social mobility. And incomes went up. Average family incomes rose from $3,300 in 1950s to $5,400 by the end of that decade. So 1950 to 1959, it went up from 3,300 to 5,400. Keep in mind that, wages have been stagnant. And then of course, housing and education, childcare, a whole bunch of other things these days have risen more than income. So it's
honestly, when I look at it typed out succinctly like that, Red Illusion, I get hard R's, you get family, homes, authority. It kind of feels like a no-brainer, honestly, when you just put it out in plain English.
It's pretty bad. And then there was also union power. So labor unions, I think, were a little more common then. You didn't have, Amazon constantly fighting.
Simona, the economic argument for the 1950s, I've always found to be uniquely stupid.
Yeah, because boomers did absolutely get, and like the greatest generation got a boost from this.
The only reason why the 1950s appeared so wealthy in the United States is because the other world center of economic production.
Hold on. No, you see, Chuck, this is why I said you have to actually think it over, bro. Don't answer right away, man. Just let it roll around. Let the shit marinate. Let it marinate, Chuck. See, I don't think marinate is a part of Nigerian culture. I don't think any food has ever been marinated on purpose in Nigeria. And so you have to, like, I don't even know if you have a word for Nigeria. Well, what's marinate in Igbo? I don't even know if you have this concept. You had to let it marinate, Chuck. You had to just let the idea soak into your brain. Chuck says, I'll have to self-deport back to Nigeria if America comes one big sundown town. I'm taking my talents back to nigga area. Chuck, see, let the ideas marinate a little bit, Chuck. Come on, man. Is it really worth it? Do you really want to go backwards? We're about to go to the moon, Chuck. We're going to be dropping hard RN bombs on Mars, Chuck. Have you ever dropped a hard R slur on Mars? Do you know how far the slurs reach in zero gravity, Chuck?
Been completely devastated by a world war, and that basically meant, like, okay, imagine.
Well, Europe's ramping up for World War III. Maybe there's hope, Milk.
Yeah, imagine if the U.S. went around and destroyed every factory in China and every factory in Europe, and then they came back and over the next 10 years was like, isn't it great how much money you can earn at an American factory job? And it's like, well, no, that's not exactly a replicable scenario was in the modern day. And that wasn't caused by the culture of the 1950s. That was caused by, and this is why I think
it was just chance. It was happenstance.
Calling out Tradwise as a cargo cult phenomenon is such an apt comparison, because what created the economic benefits that made if you're not familiar with the cargo cults, these were Aboriginal people in islands who during the war had troops stationed in the area that would give them.
God, the cargo cult, I got to tell you, man, when I discovered the cargo cult, I had to pause for a little while because I didn't want to, I had to pause before I shared this with my audience. I had to let it marinate, Chuck. I had to let it marinate. The idea of the cargo cult, I had to let that marinate, Chuck, because there is a question that begs itself once you get a good look at the cargo cult itself, like the existence of a cargo cult. And not only does this happen on just like one little island, it was a phenomenon that repeated itself across different islands, right? It's an Aboriginal phenomenon. And the existence of a thing like a cargo cult, it begs a type of question that it does kind of stretch the boundaries of the mind. Our modern liberal conception of the world has yet to grapple with the reality of the existence of a cargo cult.
Temples almost everywhere nearby. This is one. Its altar is standing 9,000 feet above sea level. The dummy plane is at the edge of the landing strip. At the other end, the control tower. The natives of the Rozo and Mikeo tribes are waiting for some plane to land on their strip, attracted by the bamboo model. They believe that planes come from paradise.
They believe that planes come from paradise.
Their ancestors sent them. But the white man, a crafty pirate, manages to get his hands on them by attracting them into the big trap of Port Moresby.
The ancestors sent those planes, but the crafty white man stole your ancestral plane.
Wait, what? Rich, now what's our motto? We was kings. We was kings!
Why are the only primitive Stone Age tribes left in the world all undeniably really, really black? With the exception of South America, those are clearly a different ethnic group, and they are definitively primitive still. But those are, like, at this point, isolated, uncontacted tribes. literally in the heart of the Brazilian rainforest. But when you travel all around the Indian subcontinent, there are a bunch of tiny islands with effectively primitive Stone Age tribes, and they're all black. Our last one of them. They all look like a nigga named Fred that be driving a forklift.
Apt comparison, because what created the economic benefits that made if you're not familiar with the cargo cults, these were Aboriginal people in islands who during the war had troops stationed in the area that would give them food. And so they had so much wealth from their perspective, like food and material supplies and technology. During that period, they tried to bring it back by reenacting scenes that they remember from that time period. So they'll build like planes out of like sticks and runways, and then do all the things like their religious ceremonies of the signs that they would make to call down the planes. It was the very same war that led to the
Cargo cult. The dummy plane is at the other end, the control tower. We're waiting for some plane to land on their strip, attracted by the bamboo model.
Wow, they literally incorporated the same clip I just played.
You know
to recreate the economic situations created by that exact same war that had nothing to do with the, you know,
well, maybe this is why many of them are also so pro-Russia. They're like, come on, guys.
You go
do it.
Go create that. And so you could say, well, if unions were stronger, you know, we'd have all this. No, unions worked in the 1950s because we didn't have any competition.
Yeah,
okay?
there was no outsourcing. Like, yeah, people didn't have the option to just turn to something else because the union was formed. That's very true.
If unions get stronger in the United States, we simply get outcompeted by countries with less union regulation.
Exactly. Yeah. Which is exactly what happened. I mean, I think that's why a lot of companies were like, okay, screw you. I'm going to do my manufacturing in the
U.S.
And that's another thing they didn't really get into in this conversation. We got basically sold out by our own corporate class, right? It was never just an automatic given that you had to move manufacturing offshore, but because corporations didn't want to pay more, they decided they wanted to pay less, and then they can get the politicians on board with international agreements. They decided to move factories offshore, and that opened up the other world, and it opens up what they're calling competition. But that was a lack of nationalism and the lack of national focus, in my opinion.
Yeah, a big part. And they don't realize who killed you. I love it when people are like, oh, well, we had such good jobs because of the unions. And I'm like, yeah, but you don't have those jobs anymore. So why do you think that happened? This is really happening in Hollywood right now, where the union, the writers union or something, decided to make some big stupid push. And
basically everything in Hollywood is unionized. It is riddled with unions, and that has ossified and made the industry so financially unviable and bogged down that they're just completely being trounced now.
No,
yeah, they're pretty much over.
People, and you can read lots of stories about this. The companies are just leaving Hollywood, and they're not doing business in Hollywood anymore.
Yeah.
Even the creative types, because they're just like, we can't deal with this anymore. So I don't think that, no, you can't bring back the economic prosperity. Unions worked in Hollywood when Hollywood had a natural monopoly, i.e. it wasn't easy to produce films in a disparate region of locations.
Yeah.
Now it is.
Mobility changes things for sure.
Yeah. So unions only work when you have a captive market. When you don't have a
well, see, Hollywood has suffered from organic technological development, which isn't the same as we're going to do a trade deal with India. It's nowhere near the same comparison, though. One is a totally planned thing, and the other is organic development.
Captive market. Unions have the opposite effect.
None of this changes the fact that for the people at the time, it felt pretty freaking good. We can't recreate that, and I'm with you on that. But
I actually point out, I mean, I go into the actual economics of the food, because my understanding is that if you actually look at cost of living of today versus the 1950s, it was actually lower today than in the 1950s for your average person.
Yeah, I will get into that. I'll get into that. But I'm not. It's later. This is my episode.
It's later. Okay,
we get to do it my way, because this isn't. Get out of my office. You let me cook, okay? But it's another element of this that was, I mean, it was obviously tied to.
Oh, they're so cute.
It's later.
We get to do it my way, because this isn't. Get out of my office. You
let her cook. That's what she does all day.
Let me cook, okay? But it's another element of this that was, I mean, it was obviously tied to economic growth and whatnot, but quality of life and social stability were both better. And this is one of those things where I think it should start to become apparent that you can totally recreate this on a family or personal cultural level. But there was a perception of positive change, which we should totally have now. Material comforts were improving. The 1950s saw widespread adoption of new technologies, televisions, cars, home appliances, and these rapidly improved daily life. Like, my grandmother was a French war bride. She grew up in France doing laundry with like washboards. You know?
A French war bride. I've never heard of that before. I didn't know that was a thing. I mean, obviously it's a thing, a war bride, but I thought they were just knocking them up and leaving them.
No, and then
apparently she got shows.
Just was so freaking amazed when she got a washing machine. She just thought it was the coolest thing in the entire world. It blew her mind. And I don't think people realize just, how amazing that was for people, but also like how low tech their lives were even in the 50s when, I don't know, when a washing machine is the thing that is the highlight of your year. She really craved to go back to that period. But there was more community, relatively speaking, and social cohesion. There was a strong emphasis on social and community life. And this was the era of sending your kids out to play all afternoon until it was dinner time or the sunset, and then expecting them to come home and everything would be okay. And then, of course, there was that economic optimism, but also mental health and well-being were just better. It was normal to start a successful middle-class life out of high school, whereas now we infantilize people like crazy. But yeah, I mean, in that social class video that I just referenced earlier, the middle-class character in the video just gets a white-collar job straight out of high school. I mean, can you imagine that happening commonly now? I mean, it's going to come back to that soon, which is great. And culture around mental health was better. Emotions were seen as harmful. And I can give you,
I think it's a better way to deal with mental health.
I can give you a video clip of there's literally another one of those 1950s instructional videos where an instructor is connecting emotions to fire. It just is perfect. Like, yeah.
One thing I liked about the 50s is they had like those classic PSAs about all the little social dangers of different things. They literally had PSAs about gay dudes trying to pick kids up in cars. Hal Koppel. Interesting.
The rides and double dates. It's a time.
Look at these white kids in their racism mobile.
Time of fun, of pranks and jokes, of ice cream cones and chocolate sodas. Youth is a time for getting a job, for finding one's place in the world. But sometimes in these troubled days, the very thoughtlessness of youth has led...
Oh, did you see that? Did you see that? That little thieving white boy, I tell you, man.
To a living nightmare. Addiction to drugs, too often acquired with tragic carelessness, may take control of a life and force actions not dreamed of before.
See, that's why I don't be giving homeless no money, because I know they just gonna get high with it. I'd rather just let you buy the drugs from me. Why I'm giving you money for? You can buy the drugs from me.
To these addicts, life's only work is to find money for drugs.
Whoa! Did he just club that lady? Is that a lady?
Life's only work is to...
Oh, that was a little kid. He beat a little kid. What, he stole his violin?
Find money for drugs. In their desperate...
He stole his little guitar. That was a little guitar.
Life's only work is to find money.
Damn, son. It was rough back then, man.
Yes.
Before men learned how to control fire and put it to work, it was man's greatest enemy. In much the same way, your emotions can be your own greatest enemy. Or under control, your emotions can make you healthier and happier and improve the lives of people around you. I think of fire in connection with emotions because when you become stirred up, when your emotions control your actions, it affects not only yourself, but the people around you.
And it did feel a lot more stable and predictable for people. And there were stronger community support networks. Also, clothing. They had Mad Men. We literally have Idiocracy. Like,
right, but here's the thing. In the 1950s, what it had in clothing, which, by the way, you can still wear if you want, it lacked in food. If you have...
I think they're about to get to the food portion, and yeah, the food kind of was ass, bro. The food was real terrible.
I've ever seen pictures of food from the 1950s.
Oh, yes. Let me send you some. Okay, first I'm going to send you just pictures of clothing. Just so, because I think it's been a while since we've watched Idiocracy, but like when you look at clothing from Idiocracy, it might as well just be clothing from today. Like,
you know, the thing is, poor people or just your average regular Americans, they kind of look like Idiocracy. But there's another image that I think fits the chic liberal crowd, the Hunger Games, Capital Citizens, right? If you ever watched the Hunger Games movies and you see how the citizens of the Capitol, they actually dress, they look like modern liberals. They look like people at a Met Gala fashion show.
Walking around Walmart this morning. Isn't this literally just what you saw this morning at Walmart?
Oh my God.
Right?
Oh my God, we actually dress, not you and me, but everyone else.
And we like,
why don't you dress like everyone else?
Doesn't this look like the clothing that was on the racks?
It is actually, in the 1950s, so sharp.
I know, it's so sharp. But yeah, I'm going to send you pictures of 1950s food. Because
people may not know this, but I used to always wear a suit and tie.
Yeah, great.
And people could say, why did you stop always wearing a suit and tie? And it's because it made me look younger. Like too young, like I look like a kid when I wear a suit and tie. And so I, as it's funny, many of our viewers, they take us out to be, and this is the first time in my life where I've really been surprised by this. I think like older relative to them than we are. I think many of them perceive themselves as younger than they actually are. I remember one of them was like on our episode on 4chan, they were like, oh, this is such like a boomer's take on 4chan. And I'm like, whoa, hold on here. Like my generation was the generation that was using 4chan as it was becoming culturally relevant and a thing. You have only lived in the territory we built. Like 4chan isn't some modern edgy thing. 4chan is my generation's, my college, my high school. Like, what are you talking about, man?
Well, anyway, now you're sounding like a boomer. Okay, boomer. But like, I just sent you a picture of 1950s party food, and what we're looking at is a spread of like sliced bread, some like meat patties.
God, that looks disgusting.
There are 2 cheese sandwiches, and then there's a weird vat of red stuff and some cheese.
That does look kind of terrible. Everything about that looks plastic and fake.
And then there's a weird vat of red stuff and some cheese. Then I sent a picture of a very basic modern charcuterie board, which includes.
I've never eaten charcuterie. Like individually, I've eaten some of these items, the grapes and it's like walnuts and cup and pomegranate. I love pomegranates. Maybe some sliced apples. I don't think I've had that star fruit. I've never had dragon fruit. That looks like salami down there. Pita wedges. Like individually, I've eaten all these things. I've never put them on a wooden table and said, let's go charcuterie. Like that is the most just really rich thing ever, a charcuterie board. I don't even know if I've ever actually said the word charcuterie in my life until just now. I've never pronounced charcuterie. It's such a weird word. It's like the most obnoxious thing. This is all called charcuterie. I wonder what this word comes from. It's probably French for faggot food.
Includes dragon fruit, sliced pear, pomegranate, fig jam with toasted pita bread slices, a container of mixed nuts and dried berries, grapes, skewered, and star fruit, of course. So there's all these exotic fruits that have been imported from all around the world.
Well, I mean, a lot of them are things that you might be surprised used to be rare, like pineapples or bananas or
like those things you didn't get them. You would get
ability to transport things that you do get, like apples. You wouldn't get those all year round in the 1950s.
Oh, but here, let me show you a great example of apples in 1950s cuisine. Check out this beautiful.
Now, I would eat charcuterie every day of the week before I eat whatever the hell this is. There are shrimp. There's shrimp jello. Bro. Jello. Shrimp is not supposed to be a flavor of jello. Why is there shrimp in my jello? This is where, and I think they're going to actually talk about this. This is where white folk got the reputation of just eating terrible food. Between World War II Britain and whatever the hell this is why our food reputation is ass right now.
I don't know if it's dessert or if it's a savory dish. Check it out. It's
Jello
looking at
with shrimp inside.
Yes, there's green Jello with shrimp inside. There's maybe cottage cheese in the center of the bunt-shaped Jello thing, and then some apple tastefully arranged around the side. Doesn't that look yummy, Malcolm?
Oh my God!
But if your appetite isn't completely surging now, let me show you this amazing 1950s casserole highlighting the the beauty of the hot dog and what we're basically looking.
Bruh. This is probably why women used to get beat up back in the day. I ain't gonna lie. You know that whole trope about guys just being abusive? Like, he just came home from work and he just beat me and he hit me for no good reason. I think this is why. I think this is exactly why. Like, could you imagine being like a 1950s guy? You had to do like real 1950s labor. Like, you had to work on a dock, unloading heavy cargo all day. You had to work like on a rail yard or something, lifting wrenches that weighed as much as 3 small children. And then you come home, you had to drive through 40 minutes of traffic through the Negro part of town. Then you get home to your fat wife, your house is dirty, and she made you a hot dog tower topped with sauerkraut. Bruh, I could totally understand it now. I totally get, like, can you just picture it all? Can you just picture the whole, like, I mean, bruh.
I hit a woman for the first time in my life, and I'm having fun.
It's so
that
kind
is
of
horrifying. Oh my God.
It looks kind of like an ode to brutalist architecture with coleslaw on top.
You can't see because they're watching this on audio. They cut hot dogs in half and then put them on like the outside of a cake of some sort
with coleslaw on top. Yeah, so it's like, I think it's a casserole, but it's like a tall casserole with coleslaw on top. And
is even the simplest of dishes they seem to have been unable to cook.
No, this was a fancy dish. No, this was you showing off.
You know what I mean is, like, you're like, well, certainly at least they can make good steak or a good burger, and it's like, no.
French fries and a fake salad next to my steak. And that was the Bonanza family plan. You can get French fries and steak and 2 big slices of a beefsteak tomato. Oh man, that was luxury back then. You were living good if you had French fries next to your big beefsteak tomatoes and a steak. The steak looks good, but that's probably fake anyway. That's probably a plastic steak anyway. Oh my goodness, man. What is this right here, True Hype? Let me see. Let me pull up this chat. Let me open up a proper video. I gotta open up a whole window now. Let me see. What do you got here? Shout out to True Hype with the $2 super chat. Let me see. Can I click this link? What are you playing? Shout out to True Hype with the $2 super chat video donation.
And I took the butcher knife and put it up to her neck. I said, if you want to live to see tomorrow, you better start frying them eggs a little bit better than what you're frying. I'm tired of eating sloppy, slimy eggs.
Yo, listen, man. Women don't really understand our pain when it comes to that kind of deal. They really don't. I know for a woman watching this type of thing, we're all evil monsters and terrible, horrible, savage people. What kind of men would be like that with their wife? What kind of man would do something like that to the wife that he loves? I know. It's hard to understand. It is, but You don't know what it's like to come home from a hard day's work, day in, day out, for weeks, months, sometimes years. And it's like you just don't, it's like you just refuse to even try. Like you're not even gonna try. You're just gonna like all you had to do was leave the eggs in the pan for another minute. 60 seconds or just one more minute. That's all you had to do was just leave the eggs in the pan just a little bit longer. You couldn't just leave the eggs in the pan a little longer. And after a while, that thing, it kind of builds up in you. It really does. And then it's almost not even about the eggs after a while. That's really when it starts to get magical. It's not even about the eggs. It almost feels like it was never about the eggs. It was like, oh, you must hate me. Oh, you must think I'm a punk. Like it really starts to become something other than the eggs. I know, but I'm just telling you, all you had to do was just let the eggs cook for another minute.
And I tucked the butcher knife and put it up to her neck. I said, if you want to live to see tomorrow, you better start frying them eggs a little bit better than what you're frying. I'm tired of eating sloppy, slimy eggs.
Y'all don't know that our struggle, man. Y'all women just don't. You couldn't relate to our struggle.
Apparently, somehow they couldn't, because I've seen pictures of burgers and steaks from the 1950s, and they look terrible. They look like a school cafeteria food. And people are like, why was food so bad in the 1950s? Few core reasons. They had only just figured out refrigeration, so they were overusing it in areas they probably shouldn't have been.
Well, and yeah, also it was really, they didn't have cold chain like supply chains where you have refrigerated trucks and then refrigerated warehouses, and so it was really hard to have things like frozen meat or other things or fruits or flowers from far away, fish being taken over. So when you had vegetables, it was quite often canned vegetables or canned meat. The canning was way more common for like the major source of the food you were eating.
Yeah.
And then of course there was less globalization, so you weren't getting these foreign things imported from far away. I mean, you had apples because they were domestically produced.
You often couldn't get, even my dad, grew up after the 1950s. Many stories about him first encountering things like sushi or curry or...
Yeah.
In media, you'll often see jokes about how bad white people food is. And I think within modern times, we can look at this and say, oh, what a silly little racist joke. But in actuality, when you go to these historic examples and you look at these pictures, you're like, oh, wow, before we started adopting ingredients and cooking techniques from other cultures, this food does actually look pretty awful.
Next ingredient. I have this in my home all the time now, chili jam. It's what I tell you. It's not Asian ingredient. What are you doing with chili jam? Let's see. Brilliant for cooking. It's got heat, but it's also got the sweetness, and it's going to kind of glaze.
Oh, no. Putting jam in rice. This is disgusting. Who put jam? First of all, what is chili jam?
What is chili jam? Asian food is all foreign and alien to me. I just want it to look pretty and taste good. I have no idea what you guys do with it.
Whole lot of no fresh chili, chili oil, chili flake. Never heard of chili jam. Is this how you trick white people to eating chili? You give them fresh chili, they go,
no, I don't actually like chili.
Give them chili jam and they go,
oh.
Other things that we might consider a normal part of daily life.
Yeah, that these were very foreign, exciting things. Also, our aesthetic standards, and this is something that some viewers of this podcast have brought up to me multiple times. It's just like the aesthetic standards we hold to our interior decoration and to our food are just so insanely high now. So I'm going to send you two pictures of just, one is a sort of a standard 1950s birthday party. The kids are wearing like clearly homemade paper hats. It looks like they're made from like newspaper or something.
I don't know. Those kids don't look like they were having a great time. It's kind of tame. Who has a birthday party where everybody's sitting at a table? White kids, that's who. White kids have a birthday party sitting at the table. Everybody's just, it's like a dinner party of 40-year-olds.
There's like a plastic tablecloth and paper cups and a chip bowl or whatever. And like someone's grandmother's in a corner smiling, looking like she's just the best host ever. Like clearly this is an impressive party for a middle-class family. And then I'm also sending a picture of Shirley Temple's birthday party. She's cutting a much larger cake, but I'm going to be honest with you. It looks kind of like a botched homemade cake.
It looks like the standard of what I would get from my local grocery store.
Well, no.
It looked a little bit uneven, honestly. The cake looks a little. I see the imperfections in the cake there, and that's the thing I noticed about those two pictures. The difference in being rich and being average wasn't all that wide. Like, it was obviously different, but like compared to what you get nowadays, like watch this Wegmans cake.
Botched homemade cake.
It looks like the standard of what I would get from my local grocery store.
Well, no. Let me.
Now, this is Wegmans. Wegmans is my favorite grocery store of all time ever. I hope there's a Wegmans in heaven.
Actually show
my daughter, actually, I bought her one of these little chocolate ice cream cup things. She tore it up. I'd never tasted a piece of it. I'm not into that kind of stuff. I like these little tarts here, the fruit tart with the little cream in it. Oh, that's my favorite thing ever. I used to buy those for lunch sometimes. Get like a sandwich or some chicken wings and a little fruit tart. Oh, perfect.
You the standards of our local area. So I'm just going to show you a picture of the cake counter from Wegmans, which is a local grocery store here. Now we're looking at perfectly executed fruit tarts, cakes, elaborately made cakes to look like cups of hot chocolate. This is the future. And then let me show you just a picture. I just chose a random local bakery in Collegeville in this case. It's from the Collegeville Cakery, I think. This is just one of their class. And I took this from Google reviews too. And you can see it's in someone's house. Like there's like sheets in the background. This is not a commercial photo.
Wow, that's an impressive cake.
This cake ain't got nothing on Shirley Temple's cake. We're now looking at a lopsided recreation of the Sleeping Beauty cake from the Disney movie that has like all these crazy stacked layers held up by a broom. Our standards today for food are incredibly high and incredibly luxurious.
Well, I mean, I'd even say in women. I think many people
Modern poor people effectively eat gourmet food. Like, think about this. This is what, most of us in America can't appreciate unless you actually travel. And then, you kind of get to know what the poverty of the real world is. American poor people literally eat gourmet food. That's why we have like obese poverty in America, because we literally have a high calorie gourmet diet for poor people.
Who haven't watched 1950s movies forget that women of the 1950s are just not very attractive. I don't know.
Well, the movie stars look great, but also they're highly airbrushed. People weren't nearly as overweight and obese.
No,
so I would actually argue that like women were more attractive because they were not as unhealthy.
Many people would call 1950s movie stars pretty mid by modern standards.
Yes, but the average person, when I look at vintage colorized footage of the 1950s, yeah, I mean, what we have now is a bunch of 2s and 3s compared to that moving around on the streets, and what was strolling on the streets in the 50s and 60s, which are a bunch of 5s and 6s. So I'm going to push back on that. And a lot of that wasn't clothing, but also I need to point out that in the 1950s, people spent 9 to 14% of their annual income just to buy fewer than 25 garments per year.
I think women were probably more attractive simply because they were thinner. Like, as a woman, it's just a lot easier to be attractive if you're not fat. And most American women are technically obese today compared to like 1950s, definitely fat. And it's just a hands down easy
but
win.
These are investment pieces.
Hold on, sorry, go over that statistic again. That's pretty crazy.
9 to 14% of annual income.
To get how many garments?
To get fewer than 25 garments per year.
Wow.
Yeah, and most clothing was made in the US. It was good-looking clothing. You didn't have a lot of it. But yeah, people look good because they spent a lot. And I think this is one of those things where people are like, oh man, like the 1950s was so affordable. You want to guess what percentage of annual income we spend on our clothing now, Malcolm? For approximately 70 garments a year? 70?
Okay, well, I'm going to guess like 1%, 2%?
3%, around 3%. Come on, but for 70 garments though.
But I mean, and this is for everyone. If you look at families who are being intentional about it, I'd be almost certain our family spends less than 0.5%.
Oh, for sure, because we're really careful. We have our kid uniforms. I just bought probably all of our kids' clothing for the next foreseeable future because on Prime Day, a bunch of Amazon Basics and kid sizes came out in like our family uniforms. So like the black.
Everything I wear is Amazon Basics. Amazon Basics. My jeans are Amazon Basics. My wife.
No sponsor.
What is Amazon Basics? Is that like a whole cheap clothing brand? I gotta write this down. I start dressing more white. Amazon Basics, is this a new thing? I'm learning so much about white people today.
Come on, Amazon.
Yeah, I want an Amazon Basics fart and Sirship.
I know, yeah. That if we could just get that in Coors Light, it'd be perfect. It'd be so natural. But yeah, one of the arguments that I do want to make here is that as much as people butthurt about the 50s being affordable, we actually spent a lot more in the 50s on certain things, and we spend a lot less now. But here's the thing that got me when I was doing research for this episode.
I'd also point out that travel was basically impossible in the 1950s. For you, people spent, you know, even with it being more expensive in the 1950s, they spent a smaller percent of their budget on it simply because it was inaccessible for most people. Outside,
so travel was unusual in the 1950s in general.
Travel should be more expensive, man. I'm tired of watching these chicks getting fights at the airport terminal. Look what they did to Carnival Cruises. Stop trying to say Carnival Cruise Line is racist now. They should just raise the price to, you know, upper middle class Caucasian levels, like Norwegian cruise lines.
It was typically domestic, it was car-based, and it was not luxurious. Airfare, if you did do it, was 6% of annual income. Now airfare is less than 1% today. And recent surveys indicate that the average American family spends about 10% of their annual income on travel, with some families spending up to 15%, whereas a typical 2-week family vacation by car in the 1950s would cost around $300 to $400, and that was like only 7 to 10% of annual income for a middle-class family taking a single significant trip a year, a 2-week trip though. And families who traveled less or took shorter trips would only spend 2 to 5%. So yeah, we definitely spend less on.
I've heard stories about them from my dad. They would get in a car and they drive for like 14 hours to like at some ocean house, and they'd
yeah. Your family used to drive from Texas to the Jersey Shore every summer, right? And just kind of camp out.
Yeah, there's like a multi-day drive. I can imagine miserable when you don't keep in mind they didn't have phones to read in the car. They didn't have. You couldn't read a book because you get car sick. You know,
you would, as they call it these days, raw dog it.
Car rides used to kind of suck a little bit because if it was daylight, you maybe could read a book or something like that. But once it got dark, oh man.
Yeah, raw dogged it for multiple day journeys.
This was before air conditioning. This was when you had to roll down your windows with a crank.
I mean, I remember how much it transformed travel to have screens in front of you.
To be able to luxury. Yeah. I mean, throughout my entire childhood, there were no screens. But so, yeah, I mean, so if we want to talk about affordability, it is true to the point of housing, that housing costs were more, and we can't fix that.
The only thing worse than a long road trip in a car is a road trip in a fucking bus. Oh my God, that's the worst. Oh man. Traveling up and down the East Coast. Ooh. I've never done like a coast to coast, like going from east to west. I imagine it gets even worse when you go that way.
Because in the 1950s, American families spent, we'll say 17 to 22% of their annual income on housing. And now the percentage of income spent on housing has risen to 25 to 30% for most American households. But given that 9 to 14% of income was spent on clothing in the 50s, whereas 3% is spent today, that alone in savings covers the cost of increased housing. Like it's super unfair that people are like, oh, it was too expensive, because now we're spending so much less on other things.
And people are like, well, why do clothes cost so much less today? It's in part because we did do the outsourcing thing.
Exactly. Yeah. The same reason why we don't have unions. Yeah.
Yet I want a starving child in China making my shirts, not some starving child in America.
I don't know. I think I'd rather the starving child in America making my shirt. I mean, because otherwise he's just going to starve and be unemployed. At least now he's hungry, but he's got a purpose. You know what I mean? If you make enough shirts this week, maybe next week he can be manager. I don't know. I don't know the promotion policy in a sweatshop, but I think I'd rather have starving American kids working, even if that means the shirt costs a little bit more. Would you rather pay an extra $2 for a t-shirt if that meant that your kids had a summer job or something like that? I'm telling you, outsourcing basic manufacturing to the third world is a crippling move for upward mobility. You're really locking in a lot of poor people when you start to take away their economic avenues.
Yeah, well, America has better, support services for the starving children. And there's SNAP and EBT and like all those, and free healthcare in most states for children at low incomes. Whereas in China, they need the income. Okay, let them have it.
Yo, shout out to True Hype with the foul ball. He said, Basics is a whole brand of market rate stuff, even but not limited to USB cords and clothing. I've never heard of Amazon Basics. Y'all gonna make me, I don't think I've even been on Amazon shopping in a couple of months. Y'all gonna make me dust off my account now.
Also, like, there's a lot of other sort of misleading things. I feel like I'm being gaslit about the 50s. Like, technically, gasoline and cars were less expensive in the 50s, but it's not the full picture because overall transportation today doesn't meaningfully cost more. In the 50s, American families spent around 15% of their household income on transportation, which included cars and public transport. But in recent years, families spend 15 to 18%. So only as much as 2%, well, more of their household income on transportation. Plus, you don't need any more to drive to rent a movie or get daily groceries or talk with your friends. Because now we have bigger refrigeration units. We have deep freezers if we want them that are more widely available. You can get bulk food delivery. It used to be that to do anything, to see a friend, to talk to a friend, you had to drive somewhere, especially if you weren't in a city. So yeah, I just don't think things are being adequately presented. And also, to your point about food, if you still prepare it yourself, especially in 1950s style, like if you're eating canned vegetables and hot dog towers.
I'd also point out that people romanticize the gender relationship in the 1950s.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, as a man, it was so great, when women, okay, so first of all, in the 1950s, women spanking their wives was pretty normalized.
Yeah.
Can you imagine having to spank your wife, like, outside of a sexual context?
Yeah.
Why is this a bad thing? Again, I'm willing to trade a hard R pass, bro.
I hit a woman for the first time in my life, and I'm having fun.
Listen, hard R pass for that? Oh, all time, bro. We're good.
It seems like such an effort. Like you have what? You treat your wife like an additional child? How does that make your life easier or better? Like,
Yeah,
do you
it's
actually
hard for me to imagine that it actually happened that much. I feel like it happened in the media as like a
If your husband ever finds out you're not store testing for fresher coffee, wow. And look at, she looks like she's having fun. She looks like she's a bit curious. Like, what is this spanking thing about? What is it you're about to do? What? She looks curious. She wants to know what a spank is about. I mean, really? Can we make America great again? Shiesty, me and you, baby, we're gonna make America great again. Would you like to know more? Right, that means you love her. Dirty Folks had that one clip. I needed to find that clip for this show. Yeah, baby, that's how we make America great again. Would you like to know more?
Keep saying
it happened in movies, so
yeah,
clearly it happened in people's house. It was not treated as like oh my god, I can't believe he did that. It was like that's a normal part of being married. So clearly it was happening.
Yes, maybe, I don't know. I just don't think most men wanted to.
And then women.
And you know what? Back when we used to be able to spank your wife, women were less medicated. Yeah. Women right now are unspanked and heavily medicated, lurking on the internet with shiesty mask on and shit like that. It's because they're not being spanked properly.
And, you had this big problem in the 1950s, all these housewives being on all these drugs.
Benzos, yes.
Through the day. So what? I've got this drugged up, childlike wife who I need to spank to keep in line.
Yeah.
I prefer that my wife just does this stuff herself. And I think that people also, as men,
No, they don't just do that stuff themselves. No. It's been like a 50, 60-year experiment at this point. They don't just do things themselves. No. They have to be set up properly to do those things. It's not just going to happen. It's like that whole 100 monkeys in a room with a typewriter. If you give them an infinite timeline, they'll eventually produce the Shakespeare work. No. And we don't have an infinite timeline either.
romanticize the concept of the wife just staying at home and doing all the childcare. I really prefer sharing childcare duties with my wife because I really like being around my kids.
I know. You'd be missing out if you were being a trad wife dad. And most of the families we know who are really, prenatalist, the men of the houses love spending time with their kids. But yeah, I mean, like,
no more time with the kids for you. I can't even imagine. Like, think about the world that we're entering today, where you have more work from home, you have more gig work, you have more. Even if you're earning less and your earnings are not as stable, consider what your life would be like if you went every day to work at a factory all day long, and then you came home and you had a wife and some kids, and that was your interaction with them. And then on weekends you'd go to, I don't know, barbecues or something, which I wouldn't like doing anyway. I'd have to like talk to people. It's so funny, parties, like children's parties today, because I go to them, other people in the comments, please tell me if this is your experience. None of the parents talk. All the parents just stand around looking awkwardly at their phones or something. And I remember when I was a kid and you had the children play stuff, the parents would do it so the parents could interact.
Yeah, we have video footage of it. Like, we have proof. The parents are hanging out and talking. Yeah.
Today, and I want Simone to go with me to one. If Simone never goes to any of this stuff, because that's my responsibility, but I want her to go just for anthropological reasons, to just be like, take a separate car, just be there for 30 minutes so you can see what it's like, because it's weird.
I do kind of, I should witness this, because I find it hard to
be like, oh, that's horrible. But, you know, the reality is I don't want to talk to these people.
You see, Shiesty Bum, I just want you to know, when civilization collapses, it's because of you. It's all your fault, baby. I just want you to know that. Carry on.
I've got friends online who I'm better matched for, and I've got my wife at home and my kids.
Yeah, but still, my point remains that you can, if you want to, recreate this life. Like education, sure, it's unsustainably expensive now, but it also can be circumvented with AI. And we talked about this at length in the AI and social class episode that we released. And same with employment. AI is going to wipe away the need for university degrees. So we're getting back to that 50s, you can start right out of high school or even before scenario. And we're about to hit an age of major wealth opportunity for those who are willing to work for it, which is exactly how it was in the 50s. You still had to work for it to have upward social mobility. So don't think that people weren't working their butts off to get anywhere in the 50s, because they absolutely were. They worked really hard. And then this quality of life thing, this, oh, well, the 50s were this time of optimism and there was all this techno-optimism and everything. You can absolutely unplug from negative media channels and you'll see things are actually getting better. And they're way better than they were in the 50s. Just look at those food pictures. And with mental health too, you can opt into better mental health. Stability and predictability, if you thoughtfully own your objective function, like you know what your values in your life plan are and you live within your means, you can have a stable and predictable life. It's all these people who are trying to opt into a clearly unsustainable culture that they don't even own, like they haven't thoughtfully chosen it for themselves, who are living precariously.
Well, and I point out a few things here. If you're like, I want cheaper.
Well, a lot of other things had to have changed over time. It's not just that people started living crazily. Like, a lot of things changed over time between now and the 50s. Like, America was a more cohesive culture back in the 50s. So people wouldn't even have conceived of all these new ways of living right now. Like, an alternative lifestyle in the 50s was literally a motorcycle gang. That was the alternative lifestyle. You had beatniks and you had guys riding motorcycle gangs. Like, those were the alternative lifestyles. Now it's dark. It's so ugly.
Right. Like, that's what the 1950s had that I want. Well, you actually have options for that today. You can go to a rural area and get a house. I mean, that's what we did. We got our house our house. If it was in the Bay Area, my God, what would it cost? Do you think
$10 million at least?
13, I would guess.
Maybe, yeah.
But out here, it was less than $500,000 when we got it. You know, so like, great house and everything like that. I mean, and now you might have to go further rural than we went, or you go to a developing country, which you couldn't easily do or live in the 1950s, and you can today.
Yeah, that is 100% an option. So yeah, I mean, you can live the 1950s fantasy. You just have to be intentional about it and be willing to break with mainstream norms, which shouldn't be hard given how toxic they are. But I mean, even better than that, you can literally live the techno-optimist 1950s future. So you can live the fantasy that people had in the 1950s. Like, you can have more sustainable marriages in which both partners contribute professionally, and even the kids. You can have greater social mobility because at least if you ride the AI wave properly, and you can have way more luxury given modern tech. Plus, we need to really be grateful for all the medical advancements that were not available in the 1950s. Like, keep in mind, the first kidney transplant was in the 50s. That was experimental, and they were not, like, organ transplants in general were not widespread. We didn't have Ozempic. We didn't have advanced antibiotics. We didn't have modern chemotherapy or targeted therapies, no gene therapy, no IVF. So, you know, we would be childless and miserable. No statins, no cardiovascular medications that are anywhere close to what we have now. No modern imaging. So no PET scans, no.
Yeah, it seems like the individual American was probably a bit healthier before all of this medical advancement. Like, testosterone levels are down. We got all kind of new modern issues going on. Why do we even need an Ozempic?
CT scans, no MRIs, there was no endoscopy. So like, you couldn't have a really simple surgery where they just kind of went in with a tiny precision cut. They just had to slice you all the way open. And I can't emphasize enough, like also like,
it seems like, and this is a very sort of Unabomber type of thought, but it seems like the more technologically advanced we get, the worse we become as individuals. Like, were we better as a species when we were a little bit less technologically savvy?
Just advanced antibiotics. You only had some really simple stuff. So it's so bizarre to me that people crave this when you can have it. You can have the fantasy they wanted. And yet here you are bitching about it? No, don't give me that. Let it.
What gets me is I think it's the culture of the 1950s that people want, even the thing that people think was really working wasn't. They think, oh, well, we had economic stability, which we only had because the rest of the world was destroyed at that time, which achieved our economy.
Yeah.
And so you can't really pine for it for those reasons. That's pining for something that you cannot recreate.
Yeah.
Or they pine for it for, oh, well, women back then, really knew their place in a relationship. And I'm like, or you can find a woman within a modern context who is willing to build the type of relationship that you want to build, right? Like, and those women are out there. They're absolutely. Simone wasn't like, when I found, because there were a number of women I considered marrying before Simone, and not one of them did I have the issue of them being like progressive brain-minded or like, and they were all like progressive to some extent, right? Like, because back then I was a progressive, right?
So most highly educated women are progressive, and you pretty much exclusively.
None of them were like, oh, I'm against, women having a different role than men, or I would expect X or Y. Like, I think what often men don't think about is many of the ways in which relationship norms have become more flexible benefit both parties.
Oh, absolutely.
Not just women.
Yeah. I mean, imagine if we were super rigid about it, you would have to do our taxes and finances.
Yeah.
But if that were really, really true, we wouldn't be having this relationship desert that we seem to be walking through as a culture, where why is everybody so angry about the state of modern relationships and dating then?
You don't want to do that. You don't want to do that. You would have had to muck out the sink this morning. Oh my God, Malcolm. Like, I'm used to mucking out drains, but the smell of this, I like almost vomited. I don't know what was going on with it, but it was not good.
Hey, at least the drain cleaner worked.
I know, that thing, they cleaned it out like a ramrod, because it basically was. Family motto.
It was on a thing my family used to run called Crazy Water Crystals on the radio station. They'd say, they'll clean you out like a ramrod.
Yeah, because what was it called? Healing Springs, Texas?
Crazy Water Mineral Wells, Texas.
Mineral Wells, Texas. Yeah, they had some kind of like retreat thing and product out of.
I love that my family, actually, that'd be a fun thing to bring back Crazy Water. I think that would do well with modern branding.
There's literally, like, we bought for your brother for his birthday. You can literally find on eBay Crazy Water Crystals memorabilia. Like,
commute to it from Dallas. This was before plane. Over the really didn't like her.
You need that.
Cleans you out like a ram. That's the way.
I'm figured out what was going on, but I could drop in. I could just like get on my phone and drop in on the Alexa device. It was in their room playing them like sleep noises, and just be like, okay, guys, what's up? And then, so we negotiated what they wanted. Hugs. I was like, well, how about I sing you a song? And then what song? And I'm just like, this is the future. We live in the retro future environment. There's all these videos you can watch about the retro futuristic house, the house of the future. There were so many of those videos in the 19.
What is a retro futuristic house? I gotta look into that now. Let's type that out real quick. Retro futuristic house. Let's just see retro futurism. What was that about? Oh, okay.
How do we imagine the future? Well, our view of the future is, of course, fluid. It changes. It is always but an extrapolation of current trends and current zeitgeist into...
I got the perfect concept right now. The new Fantastic Four movie. I just watched that last night. And, yeah, very retro future. I know exactly what they mean now. It's like the Fantastic Four movie. It's a modern world, but it's 1960s, though. It's weird. It's a weird look. Anyway.
50s, advertising various things and the power of plastics. And while there's not an exact translation, and Elon Musk loves to quote his son Saxon, who once said, why does the future not look like the future? Or why does today not look like the future? But it does. Like, it's not an exact, we don't have flying cars, but that's because Who wants to get a pilot license to get a car? You know, like that. You don't understand the air traffic control problems you would have with that.
We actually could have flying cars, but like she said, it's not really practical yet. And you know, from Star Wars, they have like those speeder bikes that they're always riding around on. Like the Empire guys had them in that huge the Wookiee battle in the forest scene or whatever. No, it was the Ewoks on Endor, right? Whatever. But they had those speeder bikes. I just saw a guy like test flying what's effectively a modern speeder bike. It didn't really have like a tail on the end of it. So it's kind of short and stubby, but we even got speeder bikes now. We got a lot of stuff out.
It's just not a practical solution. And so, yeah, it bothers me. But I'm also, I'm bothered by the fact that people aren't just living the type of 1950s they want. And this is also a really common complaint that we have about culture in general. Like people get really mad about, oh, like there's this culture and I don't like that they're winning or whatever, but they don't the point about culture is if you see something you like, don't complain about it. Take the parts you like it, incorporate it into your culture and live it and thrive.
This is, I think, a problem with, the people who fantasize about the 1950s again. They're like, well, dating would have been easier for me in the 1950s or something like that, they'll say. And I'm like, it reminds me of the communists who are like, I want communism. And I'm like, you understand that if this was a communist system, you would be the underclass. Like you wouldn't be in the ruling regime. You're the same people in the ruling regime. They just have more power. It'd be Trump as head of the communist, dictatorship. This doesn't put you in a better position vis-a-vis where you are now. You just imagine yourself as somebody with a position of power within this new ecosystem.
Yeah.
And I think when people reflect back on the 1950s, they don't realize if you're watching this show, you probably would have been one of the nerds playing like Dungeons and Dragons. I don't think that existed yet, but you know what I mean? Something like that, right?
Yeah.
I'm not sure how really accurate that is, because here's the problem. I want to skip ahead to they're going to get to the black part in a second. But the thing about the dating situation is over the decades since the 50s, women as a class have been kind of elevated over men. And so that does have a huge impact on how families would get formed in the first place, right? Like once you start promoting women over men, there are less available partners that the women will find suitable. And then there's the whole phenomenon of, will she even stay in the marriage after she's been married for a little while?
Deal with life in a more normal way is just as effective as like the really expensive therapies we tried.
An interesting point, which is the integration of and sort of destruction of Black culture in the United States since the 1950s. So it can be completely subsumed by the urban monoculture.
Yeah.
It's really broken the idea of a unique Black American identity.
Oh my God. Yeah, no, speaking of subway takes, I'll share this with you too. There's another one where this woman it's a Black woman and she's like, no, bring back segregation. Like, I'm serious. Like, one, I want to know if I'm not welcome. And two, also like white food sucks. Like, bring the spice, bring the flavor.
So what's your take?
Bring back segregation.
100% disagree.
Dead at bring it back. I want to know where I'm not welcome, okay? Put them signs back up. Colors only, whites only. Let's do it, all right? Rip the Band-Aid off. Especially for a restaurant. Are you kidding me? Whites only? What do I want to do in there? Okay.
You're saying that the Black excellence.
Absolutely.
The segregation is to get
the colored excellence.
Okay.
Okay. What's the playlist in the whites only spot? They playing Carrie Underwood and Kid Rock. We playing Babyface and Diggable Planets. Ain't no overhead lighting. Black people spend over $1 trillion a year. I would love for the government to force us to spend it on our own people.
This is very good.
Yeah.
I like this a lot.
Like it's sort of this desire to bring back Black exceptionalism as well. And yeah, you're right. This like forced integration and therefore cultural erasure, homogenization. Yeah. Like, okay, so now like is Black culture better off now? Like, I mean, it's obviously there were horrible things about like pre-civil rights, the United States and post-civil rights. I mean, systemic racism is real, well, et cetera. I acknowledge all of that. But okay, so like fertility is worse, out of wedlock births are worse. And, having two parents really does make a difference in kids' outcomes. So like, this is kind of a big deal. Mental health is worse, even if it's not as bad as white mental health even today. Wealth too, the Black in the 1950s, the Black-white wealth gap narrowed after World War II. So it actually improved a lot in the 50s.
How is it compared?
It hasn't improved really. It remains entrenched. And median Black household income is 58% of white households, which is unchanged since 1953. So
compared to white America, Black America has not really increased our household income, whereas white household income has kind of went up exponentially over the years.
Despite all the improvements, like Black families are more wealthy.
Oh yeah, the Black people have it so much better than in the 1950s. That is wild to hear that actually the wealth gap has not improved since 1950.
No.
It actually, I heard her say all this, and I was like, this can't actually be true, right? Like this doesn't sound true to me. So I decided to start Googling it, and oh my God, it's so much worse than I thought. If you look at this graph by the Washington Post, which is looking at median household wealth adjusted for inflation, since the 1950s, white wealth has gone up about 3x. Black wealth, median adjusted household per household, is approximately the same as it was in the 1950s. Then look at this graph, which is median net worth adjusted by household. Again, you see the same thing, and this time it more than triples for white wealth, and black wealth again goes up by significantly less, maybe 1/10. I then thought to myself, well, okay, maybe in relation to whites, blacks were better off than they are today, and in relation to their relationships or probability of being born out of wedlock. But certainly that's offset by the risk of racial violence. And so then I decided to go back and say, okay, so what was the actual rates of racial violence in the 1950s? And throughout the 1950s, there were 6 people killed by lynchings. That's a lot less than I thought. And so then
in the entire 10-year span, 6 lynchings. That means whole years went by where nothing happened. 52, 53, 54. But there was a big spike in 53 and 55. They got 3 niggas in 55. So it's like they made up for those 3 years they went quiet. And then after those 3 guys in 55, it went flat again. 0, 0, 0. And then they ended off 1959. We had to end the year with one more just to make it, like a party.
Was like, okay, well, what if we then move that to all forms of racial violence against Black communities over the course of the entire 1950s? You then get 24 victims, which, while a tragedy, is significantly less than I had been led to believe by popular media. The same AI that gave me that 25 number for the 1950s, when I asked it how many Blacks had been killed in the past 10 years due to racial violence, it gave me a number of 50 to 100 anti-Black hate crime homicides over the last decade, which, okay, it may be that it is more sensitive what counts as an anti-Black.
That is impossible. If we're judging by the exact same metrics from the 1950s, that is literally impossible.
Murder today than back then, I will give it that. But I think it at least challenges this preconception we have that hate crime has gone significantly down, or racial inequality has gone significantly down over the last 50 years. And what I find funny is that I'm sure some people will take this to be a racist point for us to be saying, actually, racism hasn't gone down as much as is publicly perceived, which is just hilarious to me. Also, to put that in context for you, if you take that higher 25 number there, if I contrast that with the number of kids, and I send my kids to a public school every weekday, the number of kids who have died in school shootings in the past 10 years, that number is 188 children have been killed in school shootings in the last 10 years, so since 2024.
No, but culturally, all these things are worse. And this is after, really after like a lot of white colonization, to be honest with you. So also, like, I was looking at that, I was like, oh my God, I've been lied to about the 50s. Like, oh, so much more expensive, except, well, we spent like 15% of our income on clothes. So I don't know.
No, but I mean, when I talk about the colonization, this is important to know. Like within the BLM movement, when they said they were fighting for the like Black values being normalized, and they listed among them non-standard marriage structures like polyamory and everything like that, when if you go back to the 1950s, Black communities were more pro that stuff than white communities were. Sorry, that was a little unclear. When I said that stuff, I was referring to marriage and traditional family structures. Black culture was more pro traditional family structures than white culture was in the 1950s, right? So they're using the Black communities corpse as a skin suit to push values that are antithetical to the historic nature of these communities, I think shows how much it has been sort of slain and puppeted by the very people who deteriorated it in the first place.
Absolutely.
They're kind of making an argument that the old school conservative Black folk are the real Black culture.
Absolutely. Yeah. So yeah, I just, again, take what you like from any period of time, from any culture, integrate it into your own, stop complaining. Like, if you want it, take it. and don't believe the 1950s propaganda, good or bad, basically. Like, if people are talking about the 50s being great, okay, well, yeah, but it wasn't that great. Just think about the hot dog tower, okay? And the Jello, the shrimp Jello, okay?
Imagine having to eat that. It's like, oh, and
No, I think objectively speaking, a lot of things were better. We were less technologically advanced, but we seem to be healthier and more culturally cohesive.
The 1950s, women cooked for their husbands and they came home to a warm meal. It's like, yeah, but what did that meal look like? Okay.
Yeah, but if it looked crazy, then you could spank your wife, and nobody really cared that much because they'd be like, I mean, well, she tried to make the hot dog tower. You know, I told her not to do that shit. It seemed like a better deal though, and all you had to do was give up a few hard R's here and there.
I might not be so excited if I knew I had to eat shrimp inside of some weird
That's
Jello
the thing is like, so yeah, like okay, yes, you know, we're talking about like, yeah, you had a job, but these were like a huge, there was a lot of industrial jobs. So these are jobs that were so rough that, remember, like Ayla writing about her experience working at a factory before she sort of found her career, was so miserable at her factory job that, you know, she would like drink herself into a stupor every night. You know, it was deeply unhealthy. And now it makes sense why. So everyone thinks there's this like fantasy of like, oh, you work all day and then you come home to your beautiful wife who gives you a kiss on the cheek and, you know, takes your shoes off and you put on your slippers and you kick up your feet and you drink your cocktail as she's making dinner while your kids prattle around. But like, no, you're getting blitzed because you are miserable in your freaking factory job, which is just so boring. And you're not listening to podcasts while you're working on the factory line at all.
Your wife gives you Jello with shrimp.
Yeah. Finally dinner's ready. And like, thank God you're blitzed because now you need to eat your green Jello with infused shrimp. And this is on a special day. Okay,
and
Malcolm.
Overcooked steak with ketchup.
It's your birthday. No, you don't get steak on it. No, man, that's very special. Maybe you get some
canned
ham
and ham.
And ham.
Yeah, food I think was a little bit more expensive. Maybe. Well, no, food was technically still cheaper back then, though. It was just a lot of y'all couldn't cook like you maybe, you know, nowadays. Like I said, nowadays poor people eat gourmet food, but I don't know. I think I'd rather have 1950s food prices, though. All in all, just avoid like spam and shit like that.
Yeah, maybe on a special day. But yeah, like
proof that 1950s food sucks. If you're like, how bad was 1950s food? The food that in America that we eat on holidays because it's traditional, it often tries to mimic the food of the past.
Yeah,
that's often like. Honey Ham would have been like the peak of food back then, and I find it to be quite boring for me. Or like turkey, and you eat that today, and you're like, "This is disgusting."
Are those oranges? And what is that? Did they take like Jello? Did they take the cranberry sauce and make little gelatin stars out of the cranberry sauce and then put them on orange? Oh my God. The turkey in and of itself isn't horrible looking. I mean, I don't know what's going on right here at the front end of the turkey. It's like it's like an ugly beheading they did. They didn't really clean that part up nicely. But it's a weird looking dish, to tell you the truth. What's this green stuff next to the turkey?
Why are we eating this on Thanksgiving? Because that used to be the best of the best.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, man. At least the British had it right with like beef Wellington on Christmas. Beef Wellington's still.
Beef Wellington's still pretty dope, yeah.
You know what I'd love to try is beef Wellington with wasabi instead of foie gras. Lightly, like just a little bit inside the pastry crust.
I think it could be pretty good, but it's hard to get good wasabi. Like, remember we tried to.
All right, now they're just going off on a beef Wellington wasabi. What kind of combination wasabi, beef Wellington, you know? Shout out to white people in their food combinations, man. You guys are doing the thing again. You guys are doing it right now. That ugly shit we just saw on the plate, you guys are trying to recreate that in your mind. I'm going to mix a Japanese spice with a classical English dish. Wasabi Wellington. Oh, wow. Anyway, I do kind of think that the 1950s had a lot to look back to. You know, it's like you can never go backward in time. You can't recapture the past, but it would be an interesting thing if we could live, I guess, a relatively low-tech life in the modern world. Because it seems like this technology stuff is a trap in a lot of ways, you know. I think about the movie WALL-E, right? So the movie was really about like this little ugly robot that was like, I don't know, some kind of garbage unit or something like that. I don't know what it did. But there was this giant like cruise ship. It was a spaceship, but it was like a cruise ship full of people. So all the people of the planet were no longer on the planet. And I guess the cruise ship just dumped all the trash onto the land and the people just floated up in the spaceship or whatever. But all the people on the spaceship were just giant fat asses who just literally got carried around by gizmos and gadgets all day. Like their whole lives was filled up with technology and everything was super easy. And it just turned them into these giant fat slobs who are just basically like worthless people at the end of it all. And so, you know, you do kind of wonder how far, like how much tech do we really need? Like I would like to live on Mars and all that stuff. But what do you have to sacrifice of your humanity to get there? And maybe that's really the philosophical problem of it all. And I played those AI videos a couple weeks ago, and there was a couple of videos I played in the beginning, like some really, really creepy AI futurism stuff where people started to become this weird fusion of cybernetic parts and human organism and all that. And there's this idea of like the singularity where one day we can finally merge our consciousness with technology and all that. And it sounds crazy when you really get far into it. Like as a species, I would like us to get onto Mars, you know, because we got to expand the brand. But I don't know if I want to become the Borg on the way. And so that's why you kind of have to always keep an eye on the past. Never forgot what made you great. But thanks for watching, guys. I appreciate you following. This has been the second act of today's doubleheader. We're going to get up out of here. Appreciate you coming through. Hit that like button on your way out. Like, share, and subscribe. Shout out to all the new church members. Appreciate you guys joining up, but we're going to wrap this one up. I will catch you later.
Aspiring to be patriarchs like what white men have, that isn't freedom. That isn't going to help anybody. It's certainly not going to help black people.
It's done. It's done. It's done. It's done. It's done. It's done.